Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the long-awaited The Geoff Antonio Show. And today we have a very special guest, Chris Voss from the record company. How you doing, Chris?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Happy to have you here, man. I really appreciate it. I've been listening to your music for quite some time, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for being a supporter of the music. And I'm glad to have some time to talk to you here this morning, early noonish. So
it's a perfect time, man. I don't know about you, but when I first wake up in the morning, it takes a couple hours for me to get the cobwebs out. I don't know about you.
Man, I find that, there was a Geoff Tweedy book about, it's like, I think it's called How to Write One Song. And he claimed up and down in that book that the best time to write a song is immediately after you wake up. So I've kind of gotten in the habit of that a little bit. And I got to say, sometimes I think those cobwebs aid in not allowing your creative space to get so invaded by all the thoughts during your day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, even though you're kind of cloudy, you're coming out of this, whether you remember it or not, you're coming out of this sleep dream thing that's like all back here in your subconscious. And then when you come into you walk right to your guitar and start playing, or walk right to a piece of paper and start writing. I found that, though at first a little strange, that it is in fact kind of a magic time to try and do that. Now, as far as interviews, I would agree. Here we want to be sharp in the frontal lobes, or whatever lobe it is that matters. But when creating, you're stretching away from that thinking mind into a deeper place that you either reconcile or create from, on the feelings you have and the experiences and stories you got floating around inside you. Did I just ask myself a question, by the way? Because I think I just answered a question you didn't ask.
Yes, but it's actually a question that I normally ask. So you went right into the heart of it. I think that's awesome. I do agree. I think from a creative space, you wake up first thing and you go right to it before the interruptions of the day. I could see that being a very good advantage to writing, because it's like you said, you're coming out of a dream state and you're open to receive and put out those ideas, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I just am a student. Like I really consider myself a student of everything first. It's not like, I don't say that lightly. Like it's a very center conscious thing that I do. Like, and one of the things why I say that is you pick up little pieces of information from other writers, and I can't even know who to attribute this quote to right now, but it's one that I heard long ago and it stuck with me. It's like, if you wake up the writer within yourself in the morning, that writer is with you all day. Meaning then, you walk past a tree, you see somebody walking their dog, somebody stirs up an emotion, and your inner writer is observing that with you. Whereas, if you wake that up right in the morning, it's kind of like runners who are just like, the alarm goes off, I hit the pavement. I'm on the street and I'm stretched and I'm out in 10 minutes because and I think it's the same thing. It's like prioritizing whatever it is you have to do in the morning kind of helps you keep that in your day, and what I've found is with writing, you cannot schedule, inspiration. You can schedule time to write, but you cannot schedule inspiration. You have to be ready for it and open to it and answer the call when it calls you.
Because you don't know what's going to happen. It's going to happen when you least expect it, and you're like, oh, whoa, right?
That's one of the things, like, as we dog on, like, I'm just the same as everybody, where I like, sometimes I love, what one of these brings to your life. In fact, as an artist, where you can like document, like I can just, I'm humming a melody. Back in the day, it was like, even if it was a great melody, I just had to remember it. Right now, I can just go blah, 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 and like, or say something or sing something. That's the. I subscribe to all the poison that this thing can bring to your life, but I also think tools, a hammer can build a house or break your hand. It depends on how you're swinging it and where you're swinging it. It's like
use it.
You got to take responsibility for how you use things. And that's like with the phone, I just kind of really try to keep it to a creative tool. If I'm online, it's to either be inspired to learn or engage with a fan. I like to answer our socials. I don't get, I don't get too hung up in anything there, but they're great tools, and that was when I changed my mind on that really helped the whole process get bigger,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you can use it against you or use it for you.
Yep.
And I've had the same experiences with the voice recorder. The only thing I've had, and maybe you have an answer for this, is sometimes a melody will come to me and it's killer. It's just like, yeah, it sounds great in my head, and I'll hum it. I don't have any words or anything, but I'll hum it out, and I'll even beatbox like a background, like rhythm or something like that. Sometimes I try to go back to it later, and I just don't have that feel of what I originally had. And it sounds like a cool melody, but it's just like, you ever have that situation, you're trying to recreate what you did a couple days ago, and you're like, man, what was I know it was something, but I don't know quite how it sounded in my head.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's bringing things from your head into the world that really is one of the big challenges, isn't it? And yes, that happens to me all the time. I think the one thing I just learned, having had that very thing happen hundreds of times, I think I now, if I speaking kind of off the cuff, because I've never really spoke on that, I'd say that I'm very forgiving of that. I look at it like maybe when I was in that moment, all of us have had stuff where you write a lyric or you say something and you're like, oh, dude, oh, yes. And then you look at it the next day and you're like, no, what was I thinking? But it's like, I think there's an exhilaration to something being born out of out of this thing that is in you, around you, that is your creative body. I don't know if it's all within us, if it's around us. I don't know how that works. I don't care to know. I just believe it's there. And as much as I may be sounding kind of like, woo, I grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. So like these things are connected to me, like growing melody and seeing something grow when I was a kid in a field are very related in the fact that some things grow quickly, some things grow slowly. You just got to leave things alone. And sometimes your best intended plans can get doused by a drought or a rainstorm. And I think that's what you're experiencing there is when you take the exhilaration of creation away from an idea, then you really get to figure out if it truly is a match that lights up for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, seeing how things grow and having the patience to see the amount of time certain ideas take to grow. And sometimes it's like a matter of timing, right? It's like maybe it's just not its time to come to fruition.
Yeah, and you have to be, to carry this analogy a little further, if I may, the best gardener, grower, the best artist, you cannot grow on infertile soil. So, or on the pavement. You could have the greatest plant seed ever, and you could have the greatest idea ever. And if you put it on this table and just put it on this table and go, all right, I'm going to leave that there for you. It's going to be a seed still in a year. But if you take it and you put it somewhere productive, you put it into something that can happen. And that productivity might be, if you're an artist, your fellow artists, your community, your band, your friends, your fans. Those are all places to put those ideas, and you hand them over or you grow it together. I think when you record a song, the people grow the song. You plant the idea of the song into the world, and the people, by giving it their attention, is the sun and the rain that song needs to grow. It has nothing to do with the artists at that point, as far as I'm concerned. Those, people talk about marketing and stuff. If you don't have a solid, fresh, like, seeds are going to grow at different rates, they're going to grow at different sizes, and it really has got nothing to do with you once you plant it until it starts to grow. Then you can get involved with it again, but does that make sense?
Completely. I think
I want to nauseate your audience with a analogy, but I'm proud of them. I will go analogy to the point of absurdity. So we'll make that our one for the first 10 minutes of this conversation.
Well, I think it's important. So I think there can be a scarcity mindset with artists that, you got lit up with that first initial inspiration of this song or this melody, and then it kind of goes away for a little bit. But from what you're saying, the comfort of knowing it'll come back when it's ready. When it's ready to grow, it'll come back, and that's, it'll come into existence the way it's supposed to be when it's supposed to be. You can't force it. It just right.
Yes, absolutely. However, I would add, just to clarify on my side, that is if your intention is to grow. If your intention is, if all these ideas you have are being tended to, you're creating, you're looking back, or you have a time where you're like Bob Dylan says on Don't Look Back, one of the greatest films of all time, 1963, black and white film by D.A. Pennebaker. I recommend it to everybody who's a musician. And there's a point in that it follows him on his first tour in London and UK when he's like blowing up, and nobody had seen him coming and is just freaking out about how brilliant he is. What he says, there's some things he said in that, and I was lucky enough to see it in college, so it had like a real profound effect on me in an early stage. He says, when I'm out here, I observe. When I go, I take all this in, and then I write it. So to me, that said, though it's his way of doing it, has compartmentalized a little bit. He's taking it in, and then he's writing, and then he's writing, and he's got like a time frame in his mind. Like, I'm out here, I'm experiencing, and now I go to my piano and my typewriter at that time. And I think that you have to grow these things. You can't just let them sit there. You have to bring the sun back into them. If they're good, they'll re-inspire you. But if they're not ready to be born, they'll just be laying there, and you go, well, that still doesn't do anything for me. I think I better move on, Yeah. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense. It really draws a clear picture, and that's very helpful.
No, hey, I got my cup of coffee, so I'm ready to let's go.
Let's go, man. Let's go. So tell me about your first experiences with music. What are some of your first memories of music playing and that really got your attention at a young age?
My grandpa, Don Voss, who passed away a couple years ago, he was a farmer till he was 92, but he was also a really great singer and musician. And he had a concertina, a Hohner concertina that I saw him play, and a harmonica that I saw him play. And Hohner is a brand of harmonica. And ironically, I'm endorsed by Hohner now. So it's kind of like a full circle, which is really, I thought that meant a lot to me when that happened, because it was the only musical company in my family from way back. Nobody else, there was no guitars laying around, nothing like that. There was just concertina and a couple old harmonicas and a really out of tune piano. At my grandpa's house that nobody could play anymore because it was just cantankerous. But the earliest experiences were that, putting on records. My mom used to play records, and I used to bounce around. There's plenty of videos of me. I had a little wiffle ball bat in diapers, bouncing, singing. And I don't know how I even knew what that was, because it just was, I think, something that was in me, And so I don't remember ever having a point where it wasn't kind of the center of my imagination and universe, even as a very early age, which I can remember back very early, very well, because I was fortunate enough to have a good family life. You know, I was fortunate enough to have a good mom and dad who were farm people, and my mom was a nurse, and my grandpas and grandma, my grandmom is 100% Italian, and the Italian grandparents had come over. And so all the bumps and bruises I got in my life happened after all that, by some of which by my own choices. But yeah, so those were my first experiences, and it just dug in. Riding around in a cab tractor with my dad, like the Doobie Brothers and Bruce Springsteen blaring out of the cab tractor speaker while I watched the tires roll around. And somehow I remember one of my first like profoundly musical thoughts was watching the screws on the inside tire of this big wheel spinning in front of me, and the sound of the music coming out. And I like noticed that they matched, and I was like, what is that all about? You know, wow. It's like, that's every day. I still see that. If I'm listening to a song in my car, I see someone walking like in sync with that tree's blowing with the song. It made me realize that great songs tend to be in sync with the world. Like if you're listening to anything from anywhere, it's like, oh, that's why the world gets along with this song, because it's completely in sync with it. So those are some of my earliest experiences, you know. And then I got a guitar after begging for a good long time in 8th grade.
How long did you have to beg? I know I did.
A while. You know, I think it wasn't because my parents there just wasn't any, you know, I think they at first thought, oh, Chris, you know, you like basketball and you like this and you want to do this. And they didn't realize like how serious I was about it. But once they did, you know, that going in and buying that first guitar, which was a really terrible like copy of a Strat. It was like an Epiphone. I didn't even know how to say Epiphone. The guy said, I have $150. And he said, I've got you, kid. Gave me an amp and a guitar. And I just remember looking at that guitar the first night that I had it. And like, I still can get like goosebumps thinking about how excited it made me. Like, I didn't know why. It just looked like something, like an alien object had landed in my home, an electric guitar, something that nobody in my vicinity of my farming community had. Here's this electric guitar and this amplifier and this cable and a pick. And I'm like, what do I do with this thing? It was so thrilling, you know, and that thrill still lives in me to this day. I still feel different versions of that every time I pick one up.
That is awesome. No, you know, when you first get that instrument, it really is one of those, oh, I've hit it, you know?
Yeah.
And you see other people playing it with the instrument in their hand, but I think, especially as a kid, to have that guitar in your hand, it really changes. It changes who you are, I think, from that point moving forward. So how'd you pick up the skill on the guitar?
I put in a lot of time. I made a plan, which is shocking to me because I can be very unorganized, but somehow as a kid, I knew I was like, all right, I'm going to practice for 2 years. I'm not going to tell anybody at school, because I lived in this little farm community and I went to a grade school with 4 other kids in my class. Okay. So then when it was time to go, and when I graduated from 8th grade, we didn't have junior high. It was 1st through 8th, 1st and 2nd grade in the same room, 3rd and 4th grade in the same room. It was like time warp, old school stuff, man. And my mom, there was a public school about 15 miles away in Burlington, Wisconsin. And there was a choice to either go to like, my family I was raised, though I'm kind of a man of the world now. I was raised in a Catholic thing. So I went to Catholic school, you know, and by the time I got to high school, they were like, you can either go to the little Catholic high school over here that would have the same people that I went to grade school with, who none of them cared about music, or the public school. And I just begged my mom. I said, please let me go to the public school. I want to meet more kids. So when I got there were other kids with guitars, and I realized right away, because I had just picked one up. I'm like, I'm not very good at it yet. So I'm like, I'm going to give it 2 years, and then I'm going to start letting people know I can play. And that's what I did. The summer between my sophomore and junior year, I formed a band. And that next year we were playing in the gym. And like, that was what I was known for, was being a guitar player and singer for the rest of my time, from 16 till now, you know.
That was awesome. And that all
I care about, man. The moment I touched that first guitar, I was like, I am going to do this for a living, and I do not care. And I was a kid thinking that. It was hard to carry that decision into adulthood because there were a lot of reasons to quit. Sometimes there still can be reasons where, you know, it's so inherent to me, like music or death is kind of I say that in as lighthearted as you can. It's like when somebody asks me, when are you going to retire? I'm like, when they put me in the ground, that's when I'm going to retire. That's when I will stop. And, that's the decision I made at that age. So, really long answer to a short question, but you know, you seem to want to answer. So, you know,
it's a great answer. No, it's a life choice, man, and
it is.
It is something that it's almost not. You know, it's your choice, but it's also like a choice made for you. It's like the music takes over you, and you're in it or you're not, right? I mean, there's not much in between.
Yeah, and as a singer the thing that's funny about music is you can continue to get it's not a corn plant, it's a freaking tree, man. You keep growing. You know, it to this day, man. I had hit a point with my guitar playing where I was like, yeah, I kind of know who I am. You know, it was the wrong state of mind. Like, I know who I am. I know what my abilities are. And I saw one thing. This is why I love the internet. It was just a Trey Anastasio video. And I'm not even a big Fish guy. Both the guys in the band, I respect the hell out of them, but it's not what I put. I'm listening to Hendrix and old blues stuff all day and, you know, early hip hop and stuff. That's like my stuff. And, he just said, like, go back to your fundamentals. He's like, make sure you brush up on your fundamentals. This is like 4 years ago, like right before the whole COVID thing. So I just took this little finger exercise and I just was like, I'm going to do this 5 minutes a day and I'm going to make sure I do it slowly and correct. And all of a sudden, I about 3 weeks after that, now I hadn't thought that way in a long time. I'll be the first to admit my woodshed was rusty, you know? And because I was just like performance writing, we got to perform, we're writing, I'm on the road, I'm back, I got to write an album. I wasn't like, I had lost the joy of rehearsal, of practice. I'd lost the focus. Once I regained focus, all of a sudden my guitar playing started going, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a whole nother level to this. I had to go back and correct habits that I might have even started when I was 16, all the way down to like, I changed the pick I was using to a small jazz pick from these bigger picks because I was like, what's this like? I had a buddy who's a really good player tell me I should try this. To like just realizing that I held so much tension in my hands when I played because I was consumed with the feeling, you know, and that tension was the enemy of the option, you know. Yeah. So that's all why I love music too, because there's always a chance to get better. There is no such thing as someone who can't get a little better. I believe that. Even like if you were a master, like, you know, Django Reinhardt or Eddie Van Halen, you know, I mean, you guys that you just think couldn't possibly get better. I guarantee you, if you had asked them till their dying day, they would have said, oh yeah, I can still get better. I can still do this better if I work on
for sure.
This. You know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's always room to get better.
I love that. And if your physicality narrows, it doesn't mean that you're less listenable. You can be, if your vocal range drops, well, there's still a lot of good stuff in there. If your fingers get a little older and arthritic, you still can, you know, I just read this thing about Les Paul, the man, not the guitar, how his hands got so arthritic by the end that he had to like basically slide around like Django Reinhardt did, and he still could play because he just found a way. He's like, well, I'm limited. I can't do this stuff anymore, but you know what I can do?
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, fingers were getting stuck, but he could still move the wrist,
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm going off here. This coffee's got me.
We could still
ask you some questions. I'm just like going on a tear about it. Go ahead.
You're giving deep answers. These are great, really good feedback. No, I appreciate it. No, but I totally agree with what you're saying. It's just like sometimes you get caught up in the songwriting and the whole cycle of that. But isn't it fun sometimes just to pick up the guitar and just play? Just know, like you're saying, during COVID, just picking it up, playing for the thrill of playing. I bet you that really that brought a lot of creativity to you, sure, at the same time.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff processed through the instrument. One of the things I learned in that whole experience was that, like, from that early age, performing and writing and going out and playing was a big part of my emotional expression, and that my own ability, raised on a farm. So it's like, you got to be tough, work hard. Even though my grandpa and my dad were extremely sensitive guys, they were like, they were tough, they were tough on you. They were old school. They were respectful, caring, beautiful men, wonderful role models, but they were tough. And you didn't see them cry. You didn't see them do anything but laugh and be kind. Those were the two emotions that they allowed themselves, was like calmness and laughter. You never saw them get angry. If they did, they walked away. And when I also have my mother's side, which is more of a fiery thing, like we're Italian, there's a lot of like, when my wife first saw me and my mom talk, she was like, boy, you guys are really loud when you talk. I'm like, hell. I'm like, my mom's Italian and I'm that's how we talk. We talk how it is. Come on. I'm like, that's just the way we do it in our house. I'm not saying that's how everybody does it, but it's all, but the point is I was atrophied in my emotional ability to process on one side of things, the private side. If I didn't have performance, there was this wild side of me, seemed almost out of control. And I realized that out of control was because I had all these things that I had to reconcile about, like, just getting over things that I'd never put behind me, accepting myself for who I am, being grateful for what I have, all these things that I never took the time really to grow, because I was always I'm like, here's my dream, I'm going towards it. Here's my dream, I'm going to laser. But a lot of stuff got left in the wake. And like the one good thing that wasn't so obviously good at the time of the pandemic was, I think almost every artist in the world had to have like a bit of a breakdown during that time, because there was it's like, what does this mean now? What does art mean now? What does my dream look like now? Is there ever even a dream? Is there a living here anymore? Do I have a right to even think that way anymore? Make plans. And I think that was a big part of why I love music and why I continue to believe in it, because I feel like it gives you real opportunity to grow if you work with it. And if you go to the instrument and practice with joy. If you play with joy in your house, you will play with joy on the stage. If you play at home like, I hate myself, why can't I do this? You're not going to suddenly turn it into joy on the stage. And not in my experience. Maybe some can, I can't.
No, it's just it's like you said, going back to the fundamentals, why you picked it up in the first place, and the joy of learning the instrument and expressing yourself through it. I mean, it's, just remembering how you got there to begin with, I think is crucial. So after high school, they knew you as a guitar man and probably eventually as a singer. Where did things go from there? I
went to Milwaukee and started playing. I went to college in Milwaukee. I wanted to go to, I think I said to my mom, I'm either going to New York or Chicago when I was graduating from high school. And Mom and Dad sat me down. They're like, look, you get good grades. you have an opportunity to go to college. And they're like, go to college, get your degree. And after that, we won't say, we'll support you in whatever you want to do. And I was like, okay. So I went to college, and immediately when I got to college, I formed a band. And within a year, that band was pretty popular in the college area. I actually, believe me, I probably thought I was pretty hot stuff back then. The world did dish me a lot of humility between that time and now. But that's what I did. I started a college band, and I always was of the mentality, and I had to learn this the hard way, time and time again, that I always had the mentality, even in my high school band, I was like, this is the band I'm going to do this with. This is it.
This is it.
This is it. And then it would break up, or, and then I get to college and like, these are the guys. This is it. And that kept happening for years, all the way up until I formed the record company in late 2011 with Alex and Mark. And when I moved here from Milwaukee to LA, I found those guys about a year and a half into being here. And the moment we played, became friends. And the moment we played together, after about a year and a half of being friends, we sat down and really made an effort to play together. And that first day, it was like, we're a band, bro. I'm like, guys, we're bands. We're a band. Excuse me, I'm misspeaking. Like, we are a band.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm like, I've been in bands since I was 16. This is a band. We were in our early 30s at that point. So it was like a little crazy to form a rock, roots, blues, whatever you want to call us, band in Los Angeles, which was not in fashion in any respect, with a farm guy in the front, it playing harmonicas and lap steels, and it didn't make a lot of sense, but ended up being the band that finally filled that. This is it. It finally happened.
Man, that is so awesome. How did you guys find each other?
It just was random. I to be honest, like when I moved here in 2010, Craigslist was still kind of a thing, and my wife suggested that I put up like something up there, which I was so not into. I was like, come on, like I'm not going to put up something. But the experience I was having out here was people would be like, yeah, man, you're good. And I'd be like, all right, let's rehearse. They're like, how much are you going to pay me? And I'm like, no, it's like, no, I'm not going to pay you, dude. And the only guys that wanted to play freely. So I'd gone from Milwaukee, where I'd been for like 10 years, where I knew every ace card player in town. And I could just be like, need good drums? Right over here. I need freaking other good drums? Right over there. And these guys, my friends, and they all knew me and I knew them. Left all that. So when I came here, it was like heartbreak city at first. And I was like, well, this is really going to be tough. And it was through that Craigslist ad, which again, to anybody who's still listening at that point, throw your hooks in the water. You got to make moves. Do one a day for your career. Send a DM, put up a thing, do something. Once you're ready, once you're ready to do something. So if you want to form a band, go find people. Don't wait. Don't be putting up just videos and going like, oh, they're going to come to me. No. If I was starting over again, I would be after it with everything I got, because there's no time to waste. And they responded to this Craigslist ad, and which is completely insane, because now knowing Alex, who responded to it like I do, that was very uncharacteristic of him. He just happened to be in a place where he was also at the end of a band. He was kind of asking himself the question, like I said, just gotten into our 30s. You're kind of asking your question at that point, like, how much more time and energy should I put into this? Because, I'm watching my friends get married, buy houses, and I'm still hoping to get some gigs. It can be very humbling. He wrote me and we just hit it off. And one thing, I may not always be the most organized, but one thing I will say that I will never question about myself is when my gut lights up like a Christmas tree, says this is it, I go after that with everything I have. And the moment I met those guys, neither of them were looking to be in a band. And I was like, I'm taking the long road. It took me about a year and a half to get them to finally sit down and strum some guitars with me. And the moment that we did that day, we formed the band, and it's been that ever since.
Man, that is so inspiring.
Thanks, bud.
Wow.
Well, I don't know what to say except for it's just like it's a combination of either, I think you just, when you hear somebody say luck is involved, it's so, I don't know about you, but that always used to frustrate me. It still frustrates me to this day. It's like, what am I supposed to freaking do with luck?
Yeah.
Luck can be, opportunity for luck can be created with persistence and a goal.
It's like you said, put your hook out there. Put your hook out there. Don't sit there and expect the universe to come to you. You got to make it be known. Let your intentions be known, and it's a work process. Luck is made, right?
I think some of it is. I mean, I think there is some elements where luck is luck and luck is made, and all I know is curate your gut. What tells you is a good song, and you go out and play it, and people are like, "That's a good song." Whatever process that is the process that will help you find the right people, find the right situations, will help you learn from when you make a mistake, because once you start getting some success, your brain starts getting involved, you start making decisions. Even if the success is just, I went and played at an open mic and 5 people dug it. Like, even that, it's once you get one opinion back to you, that's in here now, and it's like every opinion can take you away from that feeling in here. You have to learn how to weigh all that. And my point is, use your instincts. Believe in yourself. I believe in manifesting things as much as anybody, just from my own experience. But I think it's a false narrative from my experience if it's just like, I'm going to sit here and every morning I'm going to go, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. No, it's not. You have to connect the action to the thing. It's like, okay, when I was a kid, I remember looking at a stage in my home city of Milwaukee, and it was at the Eagles Ballroom, and I saw like a band there, a huge band, and I was like, I'm going to play on that stage someday. That was as simple as the thought was. It took me 7 or 8 years, but I found myself on that stage, and I do that now. I said, I've got a lap steel that's sitting over there that I've owned since I was 18 years old. I put it on the shelf. We played Red Rocks 4 or 5 times opening, never headlined. I put that steel on the shelf, and I love this thing. I've been playing, it looks like my little Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar because it's just beat up. Every dent, every nick is me from 18 years old till now. It will not move from that spot until we headline Red Rocks. That's how I do it, where it's like sitting there, and I will bring you down again when I do this. And I won't even say if, because I have to play that thing again. So now I have no choice. I have to see the through line,
Man, that is awesome.
That makes sense. I've never probably shared this much about this process, but something about writing music right now, and I'm in that open space to talk about these things.
I think it's fantastic. And it's just like you're saying, it is a part of manifestation, but it's action, and it's also manifesting at the same time with these conscious actions. And I think it's awesome. I think that's really, really inspiring. I'm not going to take this instrument down until we headline Red Rocks. Man, I'm going to see it happen.
My dream when I was a kid was to go to Europe. Okay. And I made a declaration to myself. I was like, I'm going nowhere in the world until my guitar takes me there. I said this at 15, and I'm looking out of my little bedroom over a field and some cattle grazing. And that's my thought. I'm like, I'm going to see London, but when this guitar takes me there, and here's the thing to know about that. It seemed like a really stupid thing for a long, long time, because I went almost nowhere for over a decade, well over a decade. No, wait, damn near 2 decades it took to get to Europe. And then I got there. And I got there. And when I got there, I was like, I remembered that. It wasn't even something I thought about all the time, but it was like, and I remember when I got on the plane, we were opening for a band called Blackberry Smoke. We're flying in, we landed in Madrid, and I remember getting off the plane, grabbing my guitar case and looking down and being like, I'll be damned. It's like it happened, and it
gave you chills, didn't it?
Yeah. But that's my point. If you're an artist and if you're listening to this, you can shrug it off. This is what's worked for me. Set goals, have patience, don't quit, and get better every day. Don't be so damn hard on yourself. You're a human being, man. You're going to make mistakes. Yes, there are days you're going to not sound good. Slow it down, practice slower, forgive yourself, man. Like, your ability is uniquely yours, and it's uniquely your responsibility to curate it. And don't be beating yourself up. And why am I saying this with such? It's because I've done it so many times, and it's such a waste of your time. So if you're an artist and you're hearing all this, none of this has anything to do from where I'm sitting about like ego. Like, I don't care about Red Rocks because I want to be like ego. It's a dream, dude. It's a dream. You got to have goals. You got to have places you want to see. You got to have things you want to experience. There's no reason to be shy about that.
Yeah.
And don't be ashamed of your dreams. And if people laugh at you, we'll see,
So be it. So be it.
If you got the guts and you really try, you will get to a place that you love in your life. But you got to have the guts, and you got to be patient. Don't make yourself miserable the whole way. Be a student, students learn, and children are such great students because they don't mind being told you're doing that wrong. And they're like, oh, I'm a kid. Okay, I'll do it a different way. When we become adults, it's a lot more difficult to remain a student because we want to do everything right now. I should be good now, right?
But it's like you're saying, it's like the self-critical, it's you can get in your own way if you don't allow yourself to grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody does. I mean, everybody does. I do. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten in my own way probably 3 times today already before this, and it's just starting my day. But it's okay. I don't think it's worth wasting time thinking about it. It's just like, okay, that didn't work. Let's move on to another thing,
That was awesome. So, Chris, with your creative process, I mean, we talked a little bit about how sometimes right out of bed you get into your creative process. I mean, from there, where do you go from there? Do you record a little something at home and take it to the band, or you bring the chords and jam with the band? How do you work it out?
Wow, that's a good question. My process right now has changed again. I just am constantly creating ideas. I'm just like I said, I wake up the writer within, and I just go. And then the things that I feel are getting to the point where the band should hear it, I either wait till it's fully formed and bring it to them. And then a lot of times, as in the words of the immortal Jerry Garcia, when you're in a band, the band tends to take your idea and do what they want to do with it. So you better be ready for that. So I learned long ago never to go into a band of independent-minded individuals who have a right to have an opinion and expect them to just do everything you explain to them. If you want to do that, you better be a solo artist. But if where you're actually like, this is my name, I want to do this, then maybe you have that option. But for me, in a band, you have to be democratic and collaborative. And yeah. I love that process. So I'll bring fragments of ideas. Alex Stiff in the band is a prolific writer. Sometimes he'll come with like song damn near done and be like, what do you think of this? Sometimes I'm like, well, hey, should change this, change that. I don't really like these lyrics. We'll do this. And then there are times where I'm just like, dude, I think you freaking nailed it, And that's a big thing, is just to have no ego about as a singer, I just try to have no ego about where it's coming from anymore, where it's like, oh, I didn't write that verse. That can't be in this song, which can happen in bands.
Yes.
No, it's like best verse wins, best melody wins, the one that's lighting us up wins. And if you don't like what the other two guys, in my case, are doing, either go home and make it better or go home and invest yourself fully in the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be open, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's like you said, you want everything your way, be a solo artist. I mean, you got to be open to collaboration.
And you got to be collaboration means tending to how you speak to somebody too. Like if we're collaborating and I'm like, well, I did, and I start taking that tone, where it's like, well, I'll tell you what, if I take that stance, you're going to be like, but if I'm like, hey man, here's this. And if you have something critical to say, if I'm like, well, you don't get what I'm coming from, you're going to be like, whoa, I don't like collaborating with this guy. But if you're like, even if I disagree, I can be like, well, I don't see it that way, but you know what? I think we'll try that. And then let's revisit it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It just, instead of, being combative, which I'm a snowplow kind of guy. And I like to think of myself as pretty sweet, but you don't get very far in this business if you don't know how to put your head down and barrel over a wall or two. And that you have to watch, if you're a person like me, you have to watch that. Whereas like some of the other guys in the group they're more back. So they have to consciously come forward and not be intimidated to say what they think. And I have to make sure I'm listening. Otherwise, I'm not being a good, good partner.
Yeah, totally. And so when you guys are laying down the tracks, recording, how do you know when the song is done?
It tells you.
Without it driving you crazy.
It tells you. It tells you.
Yeah, you just know.
Yep, it tells you. I can't say it any easier than that.
Yeah.
And time will tell if it told you the truth,
Yeah. Yeah. You just know. You kind of
know a short answer.
You come to peace with the process and you're like, you know what? This feels right.
Yeah. Yes. It just, you just know. If you don't know, that either means the song isn't doing what you want it to do, or you don't know who you are right now, and you got to go look in the mirror and ask yourself, why do I not understand the last 10 pieces of art I've done? Why is none of this making sense? Looking in the mirror is also critical, and being honest about who you're bringing to the table every day. It's like, am I bringing the best me to the table every day? Not easy, man, but worth the time. You know what I mean? So that's how you know. If you do that work, you'll know.
You'll know.
If you don't know, it's okay.
Figure it out.
It's probably going to lay in one of those two areas. You're either going to be, in my experience, again, this is all just my experience. I'm a student. There could be somebody that says something and I'd be like, you know what, man? I never thought of that. I always am open. My opinion always has wheels. It can be pushed around if the weight is pushable. But yeah, if you don't know the answer to that when you're hearing it, and if you've got a couple of trusted people, sometimes they can help clarify, what they're hearing can be very nice. If you have somebody you really trust, their opinion, and why you trust their opinion. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to play for my bud over here. And it's like, do you respect the kind of stuff they listen to? Do you like the same kind of stuff? Are they encouraging to what you do that way? Or are they just blindly encouraging to what you do? You want to know if somebody's is the kind of person that's going to give you a real take and be kind about what they're about to say to you. So it's not like, you don't want to put your song in someone else's hands ever. You always want to be like, what do you think? And it's like, if they say, well, then it's still yours. Until you go, it's out. Now it's everyone's. It's your job to hold on to it. But I don't know if any of that's making sense. I'm kind of feel like it's not a process I speak of, but I do appreciate you giving me a platform because it's actually good to remember, No,
it's great. No, it's really eye opening. I mean, it's one of those things. It's, you got to put it out there and take it back and figure it out. And I think also too, for me, it's like, who's giving you the feedback and where are they coming from? I think
absolutely
as well, sometimes they could be coming from somewhere totally like,
yes,
different style or something. And it's like, oh, I get it.
Yes.
But
and they might be like that, sometimes people will say that's right. I'm right about this. It's like art is not a math equation. It's not. Yes, it's not. Now there might be like, okay, if you take this lyric and move it over here, and yes, this opinion might actually get a bigger result than this one. But right, you have to do what feels right. Then you can sleep at night at least, knowing that even when the whole, when every bridge and everything you've ever done is burning, which will happen too, at times in this business, by your own fault, by circumstances fault. But if you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, and bring the best person forward you can, I don't know. That's the only thing I've figured out about that whole thing.
It makes complete sense to me. Now, one thing, I like to ask my guests is, a lot of fans, they'll watch your success for you and the band, and they have this dream state in their head that, Chris picked up the guitar, started singing, and boom, 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 life just kind of magically rolled out the red carpet, and they don't realize that the blood, the sweat, and the tears that you put in. And is there an example in your career that maybe, on your way to where you are today, where it was like an incident happened, something with your career, and it's like, it really kind of hurt, at the time, you're like, man, this is rough, but you got past it.
Yeah. Right off the bat, when I was when I went to college, I still kept my little high school band together. And one of the guys in the group was one of my best friends. And I moved to college and I met all these really cool dudes and introduced them all. And they all promptly formed a band without me because of my buddy, who was a really smart guy. And I just didn't know what he was doing at the time. I didn't realize he was having conversations back here. These other dudes were singers like me, and he just formed a band over here, and they just cut me out. And I was like, these were my best friends, and it destroyed me as a person. I was so heartbroken. And there were a lot of other things going on at that time. And I was green, man. I had come from, like I said, a good environment. I didn't know people. I was lucky. I hadn't been taught early, like some of my friends were, from their upbringings or their environments. Life ain't fair. People do things behind your back. Don't just trust everybody just because you think everybody's going to be honorable. That was one of those moments, but I'm proud to say it didn't obviously stop me, and I'm still going. So, it all worked out.
How'd you get past it at the time?
Well, at that time, I wouldn't advise this, but raging anger to that they were wrong.
Yeah.
About me. I formed another band, and within 6 months, we were drawing a lot of people in that town, and those other guys weren't doing anything. That band, I let them open for us one time just to basically, because I was young, and I guess I probably thought I was doing it out of kindness, but I wasn't. I was like, you guys go ahead. You broke my band up and you formed it. Go ahead, open for me, and now we're going to bring this house down. And that's another thing that I think I learned there's part of that that's still useful today. That
Fuel.
that instinct.
Fuel, right?
That can't, but if that's your sole motivator, this much use, that much misery.
Yeah.
Just you squeeze. It's like a little bit of a little mixer in your drink. You know, it's like, okay, a little bit of tequila is good, but if you just fill the whole glass like this and go like this, dilute that. But at that time, that was a really good feeling for me, even though it wasn't necessarily always from the purest place, because I felt like I got robbed all my self-confidence, all my friends, and I made it my mission to show those guys over and over and over again, you effed up big time. And after all my Zen stuff, I think it's important to know that that's a part of this too, is that was a very human response. And now I'm really good buddies with all those dudes. They're all, we got past it,
Yeah.
It wasn't, it's just like some people can be friends with their exes. I'm friends with everybody I've ever been in a band with, save one or two guys who were just impossible to stay in contact with.
Yeah.
So there you go. I've never told that story.
That's a great story, and I like it. I like it. I like how you turned it into fuel, man. I mean, you could have taken it the wrong way. You could have said, and
I took it the wrong way.
Yeah, well, you did, but you could have negatively affected your career, and we wouldn't know your music today. I like how you got past it, and you were pissed off, but you used that as fuel to, like, you propelled. Then your band at the time blew up,
Yeah, no, it was fun. And then I got, again, I had that same, not that kind of thing, but you'd think, all right, you and me are in it together. And then all of a sudden, somebody's priorities would change, and they're like, I got to leave the group. We ain't making any money, and I'd be like, oh, because in my mind, I was like, we're in this, and you have to find like-minded people, treat each other with respect, and one thing I really try not to do, I knew how much that hurt, so I try not to, with my bandmates, pull those moves. It's like, something ain't right, say it. If something is, and say it with kindness, but yeah, that was a great, there's so much more to that story that I didn't tell. Maybe I'll save that if I ever write a book, because I had a house burn down in that time. I had a girl break up. It was all within a span of like 3 weeks. It was just a complete decimation.
Like loud.
Yeah. I still have trouble listening to Creedence Bad Moon Rising just because it was in rotation at that time. And I was like, good God, what an omen.
Oh, man. Don't go out tonight. It's sure to take your life.
But honestly, Creedence is one of my favorite bands, but still, when that song comes on, still to this day, I'm like,
killer band. Hey, speaking of which, did you guys ever cover any CCR? Because I could totally see that.
I never have. In private, I have. I never have taken it on the stage. I'm always very, like in the record company, like we got a Beastie Boys cover, which sounds nothing like the Beastie Boys. We've got it's like, if we can't bring our own flavor to a cover, it's like, I see Creedence as like, what I do is so influenced by this person that I can't see myself doing anything but a lesser than version of this, because it's already perfect and it's in my wheelhouse, perfectly done by somebody that is up here. And
your flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. So but with the Beastie Boys, like they've done it perfect, but they're all the way over here. Now I can take that and make my own flavor over here, because it's nothing. The only thing similar about it is the song title and the lyrics. That's one thing we've always tried to do. Even like one or two of the Dead covers we've done, I'm more of we take them more into a completely different direction than say how they did it. Because like, I don't sound anything like Jerry Garcia. I don't sound anything like, Phil Lesh or Bob Weir. I sound a little bit like Pigpen, the early. That's it. But anyhow, yeah. There you go.
Well, I really love your cover of So What You Want. I was jamming on that, and
people
great cover.
That was done just completely. That was done in one take. on a whim. And sometimes that's how it works. You know, it was done completely live. Yeah.
Man, it's awesome. No, that's from one take, dude. And your vocals too are awesome. So tell me, what are you working on now? What's coming up next?
Well, as a matter of fact, in about 10 minutes after this interview, I'm heading to the studio. So, to work on some music with the guys, and we'll be doing that as often as we can. And then we're playing off of this fourth album, which is still very much just not even a year old yet. So it's like 8 months out, but we're starting to write again. You know, you always have to be, you know, once the album drops, I mean, I never see a break in writing, because I always see writing as a pleasure. Though, you know, if somebody's asking, like, say, if a manager or somebody at a label's like, when's the next record? I might be a little more like, we're not there yet, but I'm always writing. I'm not always writing stuff that I know will fit or that I enjoy all the time. Yeah. But I always look at everything I do as getting me closer to that next idea that'll flip the switch for me, you know?
Awesome. That's awesome. And I know you guys are playing a lot of dates this year, right? You got a tour?
Yeah, we're touring all over. If you go to the recordcompany.net or follow us on, you know, the gram or like whatever, any of that stuff, you can catch our stuff on there. The best place to look at the tour dates is just, you know, if you Google us, it's right there. But we're all through the United States for the remainder of this year, and then we'll hit Europe next year and more of the United States, and hitting some festivals this year and, you know, this summer, and yeah, just playing, recording. You know, that's my life now, and that's all I want to do. So I'm happy.
I love it. I love it. Very inspired by your story, Chris. And thank you so much for doing this interview today. I know the listeners are going to be very inspired by your story, and your breakdowns were absolutely awesome.
I'm glad you enjoyed them. I sometimes, you know, I think it's important to when you're inspired to speak, you know, some interviews I don't go quite as, well, believe me, some of them I don't, but I appreciate you giving me the platform. And I like doing these long form interviews, because if you have an audience and they want to hear this, you know, I love listening to artists of any kind, speak on their process. I think it's just so inspiring. And that would be the other thing. The last thing I'll say to any lyric writer, you know, it's not just about, if you're a lyric writer, books are very useful. Like, you know, it's getting a little tougher and tougher to read. If you don't have time to read, listen to an audiobook, but I still think there's no substitute for reading a couple pages of a book. When you're writing your lyrics, put a book down right next to you. And one of the things I'll do, if I get a word that I think I'm like, that's extremely cliche, I'll just go, and I'll just stop on a page and I'll let my eyes go blurry, and the word will literally pop out. Really? When the magic is ready. And if it doesn't, I can tell you, probably that might happen one time out of 50. But the one time it happens, you're like, oh, that word. You know, just like you go and lyricists, just like you go and you listen to chords and learn songs and learn how to sing other people's songs, your stories deserve time and energy. Root out those cliches. You know, don't just, if every line you're writing, you can end, you know, somebody could end it before they hear it. Ask yourself, is that really what you want? You know, yeah. Remember, if you have a great melody and a great song, but you don't have the story right for yourself, you might be cutting yourself short of a real opportunity to give a melody to somebody with something that is meaningful, really meaningful. And sometimes you just got to dig. And that's another thing I guess I've probably never said in an interview, but keep a book next to you. And I'm not talking about a Kindle. I'm like, if you don't have some books in your house, go and go on Etsy, go on eBay, look up the 10 best books of the last 100 years, buy them for $2 a piece, paperback, have them on your shelf and just put them down, you know? And that's, you know, that's all I got to say on that.
Dude, that's a gem. I've never heard that. That's a fantastic idea.
Do it. You will thank me, and I'll be thankful because it just means more good music out there. That's another thing. It's like, be free about what you say. Like, don't hide things, because like, just because I'm telling you, you know, we're all trying to get the same gigs and stuff, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be a community. You know, if you got something you've learned that really works for you, share it. You know?
Yeah. And it's like you said, it makes better music, better art for us to be inspired by.
Makes the world better. When art is better, when art is more from the heart, it makes the world better. And, you know, these are things that I'd love to tell you that I just came up with all these great ideas. No, man, they're all from somebody else saying something, and I might have just taken pieces and it puts my little thing together. But I can't tell you, any writer out there, just think of a couple. And if you can't think of any, you can even go back to when you were in school and be like, you know, but like, it doesn't matter if it's James Baldwin or if it's like Kurt Vonnegut. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is, Flannery O'Connor. Like, it doesn't matter. Just get some books, buy them cheap, have the physical books with you, because when you flip those pages, you're just like, you're going to see a word and you're going to be like, holy, I would have never put that word in the song. Holy shit. But if I put that word in this song, suddenly, I mean, trust me when I say that's how the greats did it. You know, David Bowie would take all these words he loved. He'd write sentences, cut them up, put them in a fishbowl, and then he would just rearrange them on a table. This is a true story. What? And sometimes that would be the song. And that's why he would get these lyrics with these turns of phrases. It's just like if you're a guitar player, you learn a lick and then you make it your own.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying to go plagiarize. No.
No.
Use something to inspire yourself.
You start with that, you go from there.
Greatness gives you a greater opportunity at greatness. If you allow yourself to be inspired by greatness, people who do something better than you, I guarantee you, Kurt Vonnegut can write a book a heck of a lot better than I can, and always probably will be the case. So why wouldn't I look in his book and see what kind of language he's using every once in a while, even if the book has nothing to do with the song I'm doing? Because you might just see a word pop out that just is like, oh my God, that's a beautiful descriptive word. That's so beautiful. It's better than I took a walk today. You know, it's like, well, no, now we're going to do this. So
yeah,
I'll close with, I've never actually said that. And I'm glad I did. So
awesome. That was a very nice nugget, Chris. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Well, hey, thank you once again, Chris Voss of the record company, coming by the Geoff Antonio show. So much appreciated. Make sure you check out his links and check out the band. I'm going to be checking them out in California over here. So loving it.
Come see a show, folks. And if you like what we do, you know, the best way to spread the word is just word of mouth. Trust your own musical opinion. When somebody's saying, hey, I don't think, you know, what should I be listening to? Or if you're hanging out with friends, man, I'm telling you, there is no greater thing. There's no algorithm that beats the old fashioned somebody you respect. And if you're that person saying to you, have you checked this out? That breaks down all the barriers in a lot of cases. So be it my band, another band, or any artist, please be out there talking, folks. It's a good thing to do for the art community. It feels so inclined.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Have a great day, bud.
You too.